Hey guys, welcome back to the Conservative Core, where our goal is to shine a light on the ridiculousness of the left. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, notification button, and like button. There's a significant concern, a troubling trend if you will, regarding Kamala Harris as a political candidate, and it boils down to a question of honesty. Over the past few years, this really has been amplified. From the pandemic to the quote-unquote protests, into everything in between. And then of course there was the biggest lie of them all, the fact that Sleepy Joe was still there mentally. Now, we all knew back in 2020 that he was losing it, but the media kept pushing the idea that he was fine and that we were the crazy ones. And recently I have been wondering to myself, do these people ever tell the truth? Everything is always some elaborate scheme with multiple layers deep, all aimed at deceiving the public. But I guess that is what happens when you've had the office for the past 4 years and everything has turned to crap. It really is sad though, because there's always a dishonest intent to mislead people so they can get away with something. This pattern is evident and consistent, and with Kamala Harris, it's amplified. They are lying to you, the media is lying to you, Kamala Harris is lying to you, and the Democratic Party is lying to you about literally everything. The first big lie is the narrative they're now pushing is to present Kamala Harris as a political candidate that everyone all of a sudden loves. Following the public exposure of Joe Biden's cognitive decline during the debate with Trump, Biden's poll numbers plummeted. At the last minute, they forced him to step down. The administration misled the American people about Biden's condition, and now they're pitching Kamala Harris, who was part of this obvious scam. The next big lie is that she has a clue on what she's doing. In fact, I think she is actually worse than Joe. The Democrats are doing the same thing they did with Joe in 2020. They are keeping her locked in the basement and not speaking. But when she does speak, it's a train wreck. I mean, just take a listen. The other day on the tarmac, Kamala Harris arrived for a rare press event, ready with her pre-packaged talking point, and she still managed to sound lost.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
Kamala Harris's statement sounds more like a rehearsed script than a genuine understanding of diplomacy. She has no idea what she is even saying here. And then meanwhile, we have Joe looking dumbfounded. And then Joe, being lost as he is, attempts to reboard the same plane he just got off a few minutes ago. The deception is right in front of us daily. Now, some might say that clip of Joe Biden was just him heading back to talk to the pilots, and sure, that's one way to spin it. But from watching this clip, it looks like it was a classic confused Joe who was dazed and confused, as we've seen so many times before. Even if you could come up with a plausible explanation for this incident or any other, it doesn't change the bigger picture. Joe Biden's health is a serious concern, and it's been covered up. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris has been putting on that fake smile for the last 4 years, pretending everything's fine, and even making ridiculous claims about Biden's supposed vitality. They've been selling us this fairy tale that he's in perfect health, capable of running miles and doing push-ups. But we've seen the reality of Joe falling off bikes and struggling to walk upstairs. It's all been a facade, and Harris has been complicit in deceiving the public about it. And Kamala Harris is clearly complicit in all of this. So what's the argument moving for the media for this? Well, now the claim is that Kamala Harris is supposedly great and accomplished, but that's another big fat lie. She's not. Can you name a single notable accomplishment from her last 4 years as vice president? You can't, because they don't exist. Everyone disliked her. Even the mainstream media admitted this up until she was handpicked for the job undemocratically. Now, suddenly, everything has changed and she's supposedly the most accomplished and loved nominee of all time. However, no one can name what she's actually done. It's a deception. And that's not the only deception. You might have noticed that Kamala Harris still doesn't really have a presence. She's been following the Biden basement strategy for the last 4 years, and now, with her candidacy announced, she's back in the basement. Kamala Harris doesn't exist in the public eye. She hasn't done any notable interviews and mostly piggybacks off celebrities. For instance, she had a big rally that was obviously a Megan Thee Stallion concert disguised as a campaign event. Harris is leveraging celebrity appearances to create artificial hype. And it is even being reported that Kamala Harris is paying rappers and celebrities for their endorsement via messages. This is being reported by Aiden Ross, who is the #1 streamer on Kick and knows almost every big rapper on the planet. All this quote-unquote hype you're seeing is all media-driven. It is not real, because no one likes it here. No one knows any of her policies she wants to implement or anything. Now, just like Sleepy Joe, sure, she's doing all the scripted stuff, but when it comes to actual interviews or opportunities to get to know the candidate, she's missing in action. CNN speculates that she prefers to define herself through ad spending rather than having to defend her record or positions directly.
I think that J.D. Vance is raising, we talked about this, is he's accusing Kamala Harris of hiding from taking tough questions. She hasn't sat or stood for facing reporters' questions in a significant way. The reason I pose this is not as selfishly. Obviously, we would all like to ask some questions about evolution of positions, but also in this race to define a candidate before the opponent does. Isn't this part of it?
No, it's a process, except for the fact that she's going to spend her $300 million defining herself on TV and on social media the way she wants, right?
It all circles back to the same central issue: deception. Kamala Harris doesn't want you to know who she really is because fundamentally she's a Marxist. The Democrats are aware of this, so they likely want her to maintain a low profile. Traditionally, being perceived as too far left would generally make a candidate unelectable in a general election. They don't want you to know that Kamala Harris has, on multiple occasions, advocated for policies that essentially push toward communism, replacing equality with equity. Just take a listen and think about her plan. Do the worst job possible as the border czar, leave the borders open so 15 million already illegals and millions more can keep coming in if she's elected, and then this would be her plan.
The bill also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for health care services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period. It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place, right? We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. Proud of the fact that we understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base. We see that people in our country are having an experience that is not equal. So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do in the spirit and in the interest of equity. To put equity firmly at the center of our economic policy.
It's all smoke and mirrors, just a massive deception. They want you to believe Kamala Harris is moderate and tough on crime, but she's not. Despite her past as a San Francisco prosecutor, she's now pushing for a no-bail system. It's all a lie. She supported defunding the police back in 2020 and supported the Minnesota Bail Project, which let out violent criminals. And there are even reports show she has been abusive towards her staff, with numerous instances of dysfunction and chaos in her office. Staff members have left or been fired due to her verbal abuse, and she's been known to berate them with foul language, creating an environment of fear. Well, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like this video for more conservative news daily. See you in the next one.